her turn, her speech.
Hi, I'm Olivia Wilde, director of Don't Worry, Darling, and this is Notes on a Scene.
Yes, I did go out there and I went to headquarters and I saw what he's hiding. He's lying to us. He's lying to all of us about what the Victory Project actually is. He's trapped us here.
Trapped.
At this point in the film, we're about halfway through our story. Our heroine, Alice, played by Florence Pugh, has decided to confront Frank, played by Chris Pine, who is this menacing overlord of this community in which she lives.
He's lying to all of us.
Alice, Bunny, your best friend, is worried about you. She thinks that you need help. Is that why she's not here tonight?
We are asking the audience to focus for several minutes on a group of people sitting around a table. That can be really terrifying because you think, well, inevitably the audience is going to get kind of bored. And so you have to continue to inject energy into the scene with everything, with the performance, with the music, with the work of the cameras.
Because you didn't want to be reminded.
He's using you. He's using all of us. Do you even know what the Victory Project actually is? Have you ever asked?
Do you?
This shot, Alice's close-up, was one that I found myself continuing to come back to over and over again in the edit. This close-up contains multitudes. She is feeling all of the high stakes of this moment. You can feel all of the tension in her eyes. What we have here is the fire in the background, which is sort of flaming behind her. This was not only providing this kind of glow onto her, but it's also kind of a menacing sense of doom. I think one piece of advice I would give to any director who's building a house on a stage and they want it to seem authentic is put a fireplace in, because people just assume that that makes it real. One thing about having real fire on your set is that sometimes it might flare up and actually change the set itself. And we had a moment, nobody got hurt, but there was kind of a large explosion that happened in this fireplace. So if you look in this frame, you will notice that there's no black charring of the brick on the fireplace, but if I move forward just a little bit, you can see that this fireplace is now black, charred, which I kind of loved. At one point, everybody freaked out. Anna Rain, our incredible script supervisor, came up to me and said, Olivia, we can't use it. The fireplace is a different color. It's all black now. And I thought, but that's amazing, because emotionally, what has happened to Alice in this moment is she has been kind of scorched. I really loved it, and I was like, we'll just take credit for it and say that it was entirely intentional. Like every other mistake that happened on set. You'll notice the framing on Frank and the framing on Alice is identical. They are equals in this moment. The rest of the film, they are never equals. Frank always kind of is the overlord over the rest of the characters. He's always kind of looming over them. He's larger than life.
Is that why you went out there? To headquarters?
John Powell, our composer, and we wanted the suspense to build as you would build it for a battle scene. It completely transformed the scene. So at this moment, the score very much grinds to a halt, and there's this moment of the strings kind of going.
Is that why you went out there? To headquarters?
He's now revealed her crime to the community. So these reactions were absolute gold to me. And the fact that they kind of happened in unison, there's this slow turn. She now knows that she is potentially at risk of her community turning against her. And what's happened is that her greatest ally, who is Jack, her husband, Harry Styles, if she loses him on her team, she's then completely isolated. So what I loved is this rack focus from the ensemble in the back to our heroes here in the foreground. This is Alice and Jack's movie. We've been connected to them as a unit for most of the film.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, but you don't know what he's doing.
You wandered out by yourself. You ignored every rule, and she put all of your lives in danger.
That flick of his eyes there, just on a performance level, is something that I absolutely love that Chris Pine put in there. He's checking in to see if this is working. He has successfully turned them against Alice, and that little flick of his eyes to the left shows us he's clocking that it's working. On a performance level, this is just something that I find really incredible about Chris Pine and the way that he played Frank. He understood that the most terrifying and the most powerful way to play this character was to do it very quietly, because powerful people never have to raise their voice. He also also is aware that his control over this community has a lot to do with his voice and the way he seems to communicate with them each individually, which is a very cult leader thing to do. And so he's checking in with them, making sure that they're looking at him.
I hope no one feels trapped. Do you feel trapped, Violet?
Asking them questions makes them feel special because he's giving them special focus and attention. Similarly, she looks around and sees she's lost them.
Yes, I did go out there and I went to headquarters and I saw what he's hiding. He's lying to us. He's lying to all of us about what the Victory Project actually is. He's trapped us here.
Trapped. I hope no one feels trapped. Do you feel trapped, Violet?
They're also connected at this point. All the men and the women are kind of a unit together, and I loved this reaction. When I saw this reaction, I made a note in the script. I said, trailer moment, and it was in fact in our first trailer. The combination of fear and anger in their eyes is exactly what I wanted. One thing that I really love about this scene are the colors. Alex Bickle, my colorist, and I brought out the green here in the curtains, and that contrast with the red. Our production designer, Katie Byron, and I really worked very hard to create this house. Many people think this is a real house out in Palm Springs. So one thing about this shot is it really shows the depth of this set. There's so many layers to it. There's so many different environments within this environment. I will also mention that this was done on an extremely tight budget and just the amazing work of this art department. I just think about every time I look at these shots that if you go to the trouble of creating these details everywhere, it just makes a difference.
He's lying to all of us about what the Victory Project actually is. He's trapped us here.
Trapped.
The trick to creating tension is making sure that everybody is able to create this kind of collective tone together. The idea is that the air in the room at this point is thick. And I think creating tone for any scene as a director is really about communication, so that everybody in the room knows the stakes of the scene. And it was definitely a scene that required a lot of exploration for each actor into kind of what they were bringing into this scene. For Harry as Jack, it was this desperation to control Alice, who is putting everything that he's built up until this point at risk, and he doesn't understand why she's doing this. And on top of that is the deep betrayal that is revealed that she went out to headquarters, the one promise they all make to each other that they will never do.
Is that why you went out there? To headquarters?
In a scene like this, where so many of the actors in the scene are actually acting non-verbally, each of these actors came to the table, quite literally, with very different levels of acting experience. Even if you don't have any lines in the scene, you can be such a huge part of that scene and be so active. And that's what 6 out of 8 actors were doing in the scene. They were completely involved and driving the scene without having to say anything. Originally in this scene, the character that I play is supposed to be in this scene, but I knew this one, I had to be at the monitor so that I could give each actor the attention they really deserved and to watch them very closely. There is a moment when Alice and Frank speak over each other, trying desperately to pull the group over onto their side. And at that point, it became not only a challenge for them as actors, but for our sound department.
And I saw what he's hiding. He's lying to us. He's lying to all of us about what the Victory Project actually is. He's trapped us here.
I would like to give a shout out to my sound mixer, Steve Morrow, who's one of the only sound mixers who says it's fine if everybody talks at the same time, so that we were able to have this very natural, almost Robert Altman-like overlapping of dialogue, which just feels much more real.
I hope no one feels trapped. Do you feel trapped, Violet? Peg? This is your psychosis.
There is enough tension amongst the group that people are starting to choose with whom they're going to align themselves. We get a sense Frank might be winning, but we're sort of hoping he doesn't.
You're experiencing trust as a feeling of entrapment, yet you trust every day. We all do.
The rage Alice feels in this moment is the rage of women for centuries who have been discredited through gaslighting. She, at this point, has the choice. She can bottle this rage and abandon this battle and surrender, or she can keep going. So in the conversations with Flo, we knew this was the point when she kind of unleashes a lot of the tension that she and the audience have built together. This desire for her to break out and to speak her truth. So it's a release, which is very satisfying, but at the same time, very, very dangerous.
Tonight, you've trusted us in your home, just like I trusted you in my bedroom.
This was a moment for Harry, playing Jack, to really let this sense of betrayal land. We want the audience to feel this kind of deep heartbreak, often in these nonverbal moments that less experienced actors kind of flail because they don't feel the safety of the kind of flotation device that is dialogue. If you don't have lines, you really just have to communicate it all with your eyes, with your energy. No easy feat for any actor, even if they're really experienced. Harry at this point was not extremely experienced. This was his second film. And this moment was one that really allowed a kind of emotional insight into his character.
Just like I trusted you in my bedroom.
So this reaction was very important. It's the first time in a while in the scene that we've opened up the frame to the rest of the ensemble at once. So now we're having a chance to see how everyone reacts to this. The most kind of important reaction at this point is Jack, because at this point, this is when we desperately don't want Frank to be able to get in between these two who we really want to stay together. And instead, Frank is creating this bond here. One thing that this frame also allows for is the ability to see this meal in front of them at this point, which is this massive raw fish. The kind of biblical metaphor is pretty clear at that point as a sort of Last Supper reference, but it's also a testament to our actors and their focus to be able to shoot a scene for an entire day in front of a giant raw fish. And it's also a testament to our props department for keeping this food fresh and consistent in terms of continuity. Not an easy thing to do. Continuity in a dinner scene is everybody's nightmare.
Alice?
It's funny how you can imagine a scene and you can storyboard a scene and it will never be how it ends up looking because you have to respond to the magic that happens on the day. The chemical reaction of these actors working together completely changed the way the scene was going to look. If I had stuck to my plan, I never would have gotten to the real meat of this scene that is actually so satisfying to watch. This scene took all day long, and I would have loved 7 days for this scene. I knew that I would only have a day, and so I asked quite a lot of the actors to come prepared, come ready, come focused, and they absolutely did, and they delivered in a way that would just far surpass my expectations.